Yeah, I mean, so I have a client who bought a property, it's a multifamily property, and when we acquired this property, we acquired it with decently low interest rates. Now, we always buffer our interest rates for the takeout financing just to make sure you can qualify for it. But again, nobody sees 400% increases in interest rates. Hey guys, I'm Josh Findlay from the Findlay Mortgage team. And I am on the Wealth Busters podcast filming with Cody and Nada today.
He's specialized in giving investors mortgage and also helping investors navigate through the high interest rate environment. And he's going to drop a lot of golden nuggets in this episode.
If you guys are struggling with making money in this market, this podcast is going to be for you. We're going to be discussing everything from purchasing real estate, finding alternative investment strategies, chatting a little bit about some of the strategies we're seeing currently in the market, and how to make money overall in this specific market.
You can just start sharing some of the stories that you hear, real stories, how people or how even high net worth people are struggling in this market.
Yeah.
Just stories out. Keeping it real.
I think, interest rates transcend all classes of people. Like, it obviously disproportionately affects in the poor and middle classes. And currently right now the middle class is getting squeezed, and the wealthy are attaining large amounts of wealth. But what comes with people who own these large amounts of wealth is they also own, tons of assets. And for the last, let's say decade, variable rate mortgages have been the way to go in regards to, being able to restructure your capital, break your mortgage. And everybody had this grand idea of, market exposure was a great thing. You couldn't lose. You were making a ton of money.
Because that's been going up for the last 20 years.
But if you have an entire portfolio on variable debt, you're in a really tough spot right now, especially if you purchased in primary markets where, where the cost of debt is, or you have a large amount of debt on your property. And it was great while you're cash flowing, but a lot of people who have these variable rate mortgage portfolios, they're feeling a lot of pain right now. So, and like myself, I'm pretty stubborn. Like, I didn't lock in, and obviously hindsight's 2020. And I don't think anybody really saw the unprecedented rate increase that we had, and which is still going on. So a lot of navigation right now with just understanding what do you do in a situation where, your portfolio is, on variable debt and you are losing money. And we do a handful of things to help them. But understanding, I think, where market cycles are, and a lot kind of what you do parallel to, taking a look at market cycles and understanding how to trade. Same thing with looking at debt, understanding, where are we at in the rate hike cycle. So if you take a look at historical rate hike cycles and you see what happened in the 70s and how they went about squishing inflation in the Volcker era, we're very similar to where that was.
When was that? When was the last time they did that?
I believe it was in the 70s when that happened.
And how did that have a soft landing, or does that have a hard landing?
No, it was brutal. It crushed the economy. I mean, a lot of people lost a lot of jobs. But, looking at parallels to where we're at now versus then, this is very engineered. This is very man-made.
Yeah, 100%.
We have...
You mean an increase is man-made, right?
Well, the increase is man-made, but also, the government's trying to put people in our country in a recession, but unemployment isn't moving.
No, that's the scary thing, right?
And also... go ahead.
Go for it.
I was going to say, typically we see this type of, market every 10 years or so. And I feel especially since the pandemic, I was expecting this to happen in 2020, but then everything got pushed and the bubble got bigger and bigger, and it just kept getting delayed until now it hit a point where we can't hide from it no more. And there were a lot of bailouts happening, banks getting money and all that stuff. And I feel that just delayed the inevitable. And so now we're feeling it times 10.
Yeah. I mean,
unless I'm wrong. I mean, I'm not
It's
economist.
easy to see why they did what they did.
100%.
When you have an entire country that is no longer able to provide for their family, obviously food and shelter become a serious concern.
Yes.
And once you deal with your serious concerns, then obviously they didn't have the foresight of seeing what would happen, or at least they didn't have people in power who are competent enough to be able to understand how this actually affects the economy. So unfortunately, we dug our hole and now we're laying in it, and we have to find a way to get out of it. So realistically, I mean, if you understand where market cycles go, we know where things are going. We understand
where are things going. You have the crystal ball.
So I have previous data, and previous data shows or well, at least projections show we're pretty close to the height of our rate hike cycle.
Yeah.
Maybe a quarter point. It really depends on where.
And how you predict that? How do you know we're almost at the height of the rate cycle?
The Bank of Canada and the and the Fed in the States do outline or give predictions on where they expect the overnight lending rate to be. And if you take a look at historical rate hike cycles and drops, you can understand that this isn't something that lasts a long time. But having a sustained level of where we are at right now is important. So current projections are about halfway through next year to the end of Q3.
It just kept getting pushed back, eh?
It keeps getting pushed back.
Yeah. And if you ever look at like historical data, like you'll typically see the same type of charting, like just spread over a long period of time. But essentially it's like mapping out the same thing. Like we get to the high, we go back down, recovery, and like it just copy and paste. But it's just the time frame this time I think got elongated a little too much. But
yeah, I mean, I think it's a cause and effect situation. Like you have to increase rates. You increase rates, money stops getting spent. Money stops getting spent. Velocity of money slows down, and at that point, inflation stops. And so they understand what has to happen. But the issue is when you talk to people who, unfortunately, don't understand this concept. It's always why would the government do this? Why would Trudeau do this? And granted, I'm not a huge fan of the guy, but I think if you understand the fundamentals of why they're doing this, I associate it to like hurting yourself. Like let's say you hurt yourself really bad and you had to cauterize a wound. So you got two choices. You either cauterize the wound, it's going to hurt really bad, it's going to suck, but you're going to live, or you're going to let yourself bleed out and you're going to die. And essentially what was happening was if we didn't do something, the cost of living was about to be really high forever for everyone. Yeah. So unfortunately what we're going through right now is necessary and needed. And a lot of the people who understand the markets and where we're at, they are planning accordingly.
100%.
Sitting on large cash positions, looking at multifamily real estate, looking to pull trigger within the next 6 to 12 months. Yeah. There's a lot of distressed properties. There's a lot of people who bought too high. There's a lot of people who have too many portfolios that are on variable debt they can't take care of, and their cash reserves are running out.
Yeah.
And you're starting to see these listings hit the market. So
100%.
You can see it as a detriment, or you can see it as an opportunity. And a lot of the people who have access to capital, who have liquidity reserves, they're the ones who are looking at this as an opportunity.
Yeah. I think with people who specifically look at the government, like making these decisions, like unfortunately in a perfect world, which we're not in, like not every decision they can make is going to have a good outcome. Like sometimes they have to make like the really hard decisions. Like I know in 2020, they bailed out some banks, and I'm not mad at that, because to be honest, I think if this happened in 2020, like everything would have fallen. I think it would have been 10 times worse than what we're dealing with right now. It's still going to suck. It's like damned if you do, damned if you don't. But I think right now we're feeling the pinch a lot less than we could have. But
yeah, it's very interesting because I don't blame anyone for a decision that I made. But a lot of time is we try to change something. It takes a longer time, but what you can do now is based on the best decision you can make with every variable that you can see, and you make the best decision and move forward, then pivot, right? And then even like you share that the wealthier people are, a lot of them, if they didn't buy right at the hype, then they have more bullets now. But if they bought right at the hype, they're trying to fill the hole. Then if not, they're in trouble. They have to kind of cut the arms to kind of save the body, kind of thing.
Yeah. I remember seeing a few days ago, I need to fact check myself on this, but I remember seeing an article, and it was like on Reddit, and someone mentioned that the food bank in Toronto now is accepting people who have an income of 100,000 or more. And when I saw that, I was like, holy cow, like, that's crazy. Like
there's information that came out actually not too long ago about the actual living cost of our living wage required to live in Toronto. I believe a couple, it's a little over $200,000 to live comfortably in Toronto now.
I just did a short form video, I think, last month, and they did a survey on 2,500 people, and they asked them what is the comfortable wage that make them feel like they're financially secure, and it's 250, and that's USD. And make them feel like they're wealthy is 400K. And then a lot of just like the YouTube, a lot of haters comment is like, where are you guys living? Like, what are you guys talking about? You guys should save more, spend less. But everyone's different, right? Everyone's at different city, right? But Toronto is getting a lot crazier, right?
It's one of the most expensive places to live on the planet.
I don't doubt that.
Yeah, it's
I don't doubt
it's up
that.
there with New York.
Yeah.
It's up there with San Francisco.
And is that mostly because of the housing?
Yeah.
Because rent usually take up half of people's income.
Well, also keep in mind nowadays, like property taxes, like I can't even imagine the property taxes like for a place in Toronto. I've never lived in Toronto, so it could be completely crazy. Like I know in London, usually
it's double,
anything,
right? It's double.
Yeah, like anything over 2K to me, like in London is like, whoa. Like that's a lot. Like mine is, to be fair,
Even outskirt, I'm paying 4K
to be fair,
year.
I got mine at a really good price. Like I lucked out, and then mine is like 1,800 for the year. Like I'm never leaving.
The MPAC hasn't reassessed anyone's properties in a long time. It's coming. Don't you worry about it.
Knock on wood.
No.
And that would just add on top of the high interest rate.
Yeah.
If it hasn't dropped, right?
Well, I mean, I think you're 5 years or 6 years since I did the last MPAC assessment.
Yeah.
And when you're running a deficit in a country and you're looking to
Find more money.
recoup capital, it's a really easy way
Yeah.
to do it. So if somebody shows up at your house, don't let them in.
I'm not in. No
Yeah,
hablas
sorry,
English.
no anglais. Not here.
Nada. I don't know her.
Yeah.
So that's advice, eh?
Yeah.
So I show up, we're gonna do a reassessment. No, what are you? I'm just renting.
I'm a
Here.
cleaner. I don't know what to tell
I just
ya.
work here.
Come back later.
That's a word. I just work here.
Yeah, I don't know who this is. We'll kick things into like a positive vibe. You know, you can still get into the housing market as long as you find something that's like affordable, right? Like I feel like when people look at the market, they're like interest rates. And sorry to beat this because you know you've never talked about interest rates
No,
before, but I feel like people put too much stress on it. Like it's affordability at the end of the day.
Yeah, and the issue is affordability isn't there anymore is the problem. Like it used to be there. Like you used to have to maybe get mom and dad to give you $20,000 to go buy a house.
Yeah.
But the issue with it is, you know, I have a brother who makes decently good money, full-time job. And you know, he can only I'd say in his own right, very successful. And he can only afford like a fraction of what the houses actually cost and where we live.
Yeah.
And we don't live
unless
in
you team up with his partner or something.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. Like you would have to have a partner. What happens if you're making six figures a year and you don't have a partner? You know, those people can't even buy houses right now, which is the problem. So I think you have a really interesting situation coming up. I think we do know that rates are going to come down at some point.
Yeah.
You know, whether that is next year or the end of next year, whatever that is, you have an unbelievable amount of pent up demand. And this might be against what everybody's thinking right now, but I think you're going to have an absolute rocket ship of value the second rates come down.
And then the value of the property is going to shoot back up.
Oh, 100%.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, you have an entire generation. You have the millennials who can't afford houses right now, who need to buy houses. Mm-hmm. They're having kids. They're getting married. You have the immigration coming into the country, and we have a massive shortage of housing.
Yeah.
You have people who just generally hate their houses, who want to move but can't move now because they can't afford it.
Yeah.
You have the majority of mortgages renewing in 2024, 2025 into rates that are double what their current rates were at, so they won't be able to afford it. The second rates come down, I think, you know, the merry-go-round goes back around.
But I feel like it's just going to be the same situation, but like flipped this time. So for example, like the affordability isn't there right now for like the interest rates and stuff. Well, what happens when the price skyrockets and now all of a sudden we're in the same boat, but everyone just wants to get a house? Like if the same house that I'm looking at right now, let's say for like 600 at 9% is now going to be at like, let's say 4%, 3%, let's just be optimistic, 2% is now going to be 1.3 mil. You know what I mean? Like it's still going to be.
The issue isn't cash down. The issue is qualification.
Yeah,
So I mean, like a lot of the people who have the money, like whether your parents are, like baby boomers and they have a bunch of cash put aside, whether you're an immigrant coming in, you usually have money put aside. You know, qualifying at today's interest rates are tough, but like most of the time people would be okay with a smaller interest rate, but a larger down payment, but they don't want to put a large down payment and still have a really high carrying cost.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of barriers right now to the market, but investors are finding ways to buy though. It's still extremely busy out there. Not as many purchases, but a lot of restructuring debt.
Yes.
A lot of refinances.
Can we talk more about the
We all laughed way too hard at
restructuring
that.
debt part?
Yeah, I mean, it's...
Can you share some of the stories that you think were just none of us would ever heard those before, and you heard them, you're like, this probably will make the CNBC headline kind of thing.
That's hilarious. I mean, I can give you a handful of examples of situations.
We just want one. We
one.
want.
I don't have a superhero story
Not
popping in my
two.
head right now.
Not
unfortunately.
superhero, but you know the one that you were sharing about still working on it.
Yeah.
Kind of share us a story on that and how were you able to help them out? So there's probably some listeners in the same shoes. And
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so I have a client who bought a property. It's a multifamily property, and when we acquired this property, we acquired it with decently low interest rates. Now, we always buffer our interest rates for the takeout financing just to make sure you can qualify for it. But again, nobody sees 400% increases in interest rates.
Yeah.
So we got a client who buys this building, this multifamily building.
How big is it?
It's like 15 units. We'll say 15 units.
Is it in primary market, secondary?
Primary
tertiary?
market.
Primary market.
Primary
So
market.
within like 30-minute drive from Toronto. kind of thing.
I believe it was in Kitchener.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, Kitchener is the new primary market, I heard.
Yeah,
Kitchener
it's
Water
hot.
it's a new
Congratulations,
Toronto.
man.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's semi-affordable, decently safe. The world, like two of the world's most renowned universities. Like,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of infrastructure being dumped there. I'm a huge
Yeah.
bull. I invest in my multifamily portfolio there.
Kitchener Water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this guy buys this property. Let's say, I think he bought it for like, I want to say like $2.4, $2.5 million. Underperforming, obviously. So like,
Yeah.
I think it had 2 vacancies, but he had to actually turn over like seven to nine of these units to make the numbers work. At the
7 of the 9 units.
7 to
15.
9 of the 15 units
Yeah.
to be like a viable project.
Yeah. So that's a 60, 70% turnover.
But that was at like 4.5%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So we get there and, you know, he's turned over the 9 units and he's finished renovations, and the guy's probably got about $1 million in renovations in this. Okay. And
So he
That's
how many
3.2
How
so
many
far.
unit did he renovate?
I think he ended up doing like 3/4 of the building, but some of the units people didn't want to leave, but he had the capital to still renovate the units. So he moved them, renovated it. They went back. They're still paying their low rent.
What's the cost per unit right now just to do those?
If making a good buy in Kitchener.
No, not a cost per, sorry, for renovation side of things. How much does he put in?
So
Roughly.
I usually put in like 40,000 plus
Got it.
about 10,000 for tenant incentives.
And that's nice, right? Nice
Yeah.
done. Kitchen,
Yeah.
new paint, flooring, all that
so a
stuff.
2-bed's gonna run you right now about $2,300,
Mm-hmm.
and a 1-bed's gonna give you about 2,000 to 2,100 bucks.
Got it. Okay.
So I mean, decently high rents. Like it's definitely worth it. So he goes through all this, spends $1 million on top of his down payment that he had. He's got significant amount of capital in this
Yeah,
project.
1.5 million.
We run the numbers. Surprise, surprise, they don't work.
And that's
So-
25 unit.
That's 15 units.
Sorry, 15 unit.
Yeah,
And so far it's 3.2. He's technically putting on this
He's got a
whole
lot of
thing.
money in this deal.
Yeah.
And obviously this wasn't the plan to be able to deal
Yeah.
with, and so many investors are dealing with this. So, you know, having to pivot and figure out, like, does it make sense to transition into something that isn't necessarily conventional financing? So you got a few options. We looked at them, and CMHC was the option. Now, the challenge with CMHC right now is the submission process takes 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still
You know,
6 months.
It's 6 months right now. So until an underwriter picks it up.
Yeah.
So, you know, the high carrying costs on the private debt he used to be able to get into this property is burning a hole.
Yikes.
Can you share a bit more? Like, did he have private?
Yeah, closed on it privately. So it was with a mortgage investment corporation. You're probably like, I think you were at 9% at the time.
Just the down payment.
Just the first mortgage minus
Yeah.
obviously the down payment.
Okay.
Yeah, and he was so he's carrying this loan, and obviously you weren't expecting to carry, you know,
For so long.
Yeah.
For so
1.5,
high.
$1.6
a long
million dollars
time.
in debt for another 12 months, which is burning about $170,000, $180,000 in just being able to restructure the debt. So, you know, that moving into CMHC obviously pivoted, allowed him to be able to get a much more favorable rate, pull out a lot of his capital. But, you know, having to pivot and eat the cost of being able to carry that debt over a prolonged period of time, you know, a lot of multifamily investors right now are dealing with having to maybe incur additional costs to be able to exit their projects. And it kind of speaks to the resiliency of, you know, the modern investor. Like,
Yeah.
you know, having to find a way to be able to do it. I guess you don't really have a choice in the matter unless you want to keep your $1 million in the building.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of investors right now who are dealing with that. The issue right now is the bond market is at record highs. Yeah. So
What does that mean for our listeners? I know, like, maybe a lot of people understand that, hey, bond market is closely related with interest rate, right? Can you explain a little bit?
Sure.
on that?
So CMHC, all of their debt is backed off of the CMB, which is the Canadian mortgage bond. We have a 5 or 10 year bond, and essentially, like, this is a guaranteed return on debt. So, you know, hedge funds, like large institutions, will purchase this to have, you know, guaranteed return of debt. Well, all of the CMHC insured mortgages are also backed by this bond. Essentially, these bonds are historically extremely low in comparative to where the average rate of conventional debt would be.
Yeah.
Just to put in comparison, like a month ago, we were doing like 4.5% CMHC rates, where the market is pricing at 7.5%.
Yeah.
So really aggressive, and you also have like increased amortizations. You got 40, 50-year amortizations. It allows you to be able to really capitalize on the operation of a building. The CMB, or just bond markets in general, how they work is investor sentiment, essentially. When there is not enough ability to create a high return on your investment in the free market, people bury their money into bonds to be able to get at least some sort of guaranteed return that is safe and guaranteed.
Correct.
And as we move through the gong show that is our economy right now, we have a handful of things going on. We have
Hey, Wellbuster, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to give us a like, subscribe, and give us a review if you have any question. And also, if you want to watch more of this type of episode, watch the episode here. And with that being said, let's get right back into the episode.
We have a recession looming. We have unemployment numbers that are kind of sticky. No one knows where the Bank of Canada is going to be increasing their rates. We're watching the federal government in the States, very closely.
Yeah, we're sisters.
We have
Whatever
war looming. You turn the news on, the world's ending.
Yeah.
And so people are jamming their money in bonds right now. The bond market is sky high. It's really high. So, I mean, if you were to submit today, you're probably around like pushing 5% on your actual like rate in which you'd submit a loan, whereas you were 4.5% the other month ago, 2 months ago. I don't think we've seen the top end of where the bond market is, unfortunately.
Yeah.
We have a little bit more pain. I'm sure you know more about this when you're looking to invest in stocks and in equities, how that necessarily affects the overall sentiment.
Yeah, it's very interesting because you mentioned about that. I'm going to put a side note on this because we're looking at like Josh heard about our side and done strategy, the alternative way to make money for a lot of real estate investors. Recently, we're looking at a strategy combining with our side and done strategy, which is we put our money in the U.S. Treasury bonds. Okay, a lot of people are going to learn our trade secrets here. And you can actually blow it out at a very cheap, like you get paid 4, 5, 6%, whatever. You can blow out a big amount. It doesn't have a lot of impact on the margin usage of your account. So it's almost like a free money for us. We can just buy for a month or anything. And we're just looking at, to make already a double digit, we make another 4 to 6%, almost a risk-free money.
Yeah.
The only thing we have to worry about is the correlation between the interest rate, so which is the treasury bill, and we got to make sure when the market crash, what's the correlation between those two kind of thing? Because a lot of people think it's free money, but if a black swan event happen when they both align, we got to know how do we protect ourselves. So anyway,
You set limits on that?
Yeah, we're looking into that. So we haven't presented even to our members. We're just doing a lot of back-end research. But if we can add 4 to 6% more per year of free cash flow, of almost near risk-free, that's a lot of money.
It's a game changer.
You guys better be taking notes.
Yeah, there's a strategy very similar to that with real estate investing. So,
really? Okay.
Yeah. So high net worth clients, if you have private banking, let's say RBC or whatever, if you had, let's say $1 million, you could actually put it into like a bond.
Yeah.
And they would take that bond and then they would leverage it at 100%. And they would give you
100%.
100% because it's guaranteed.
Yeah.
It's a guaranteed payback from the government. So they'll give you 100% on the bond. You never have to touch a dollar of your own money. They lend it to you at prime and you write off all the interest. So you're essentially using all borrowed money to be able to go and invest while you're getting a guaranteed return on your actual bond and you never touch your own principal. So guys who are looking to keep their net worth high and have liquidity, they can leverage against it and just keep it and then borrow the rest of it.
So what's your thinking behind that? Is that they have to cash. They could have just used the cash, but because they want to write off, because they're getting paid 4%, whatever, right? So they borrow it, and what does the bank charge them?
Prime. It's 7.2, I guess,
so
right now.
So there's still a spread of negative 3% in how much that's their interest payment, right? So they just have to make at least 3% somewhere else to make it work.
Yeah, and most of them do. It's just most of them like the idea of having it on a net worth statement. you know, if you can have it there and you can show it instead of it being out, you know, it's in an account that's verifiable.
Yeah.
Versus it being out in the market, and let's say you have it in a private mortgage, you got it in whatever, it's not an account that's verifiable.
Yeah.
So that's the main point why they do that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a cost of doing business. Otherwise, they could just take the cash and go do something, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Because I recently talked, a lot of private bankers just approached me from CIBC, Scotia, and RBC side, and they've been talking about that. It's like, oh, you just put your money here. You can loan against your insurance, loan against your cash, loan against all that stuff. And that's definitely a very interesting world.
Yeah. I keep getting those calls, but I think now I'm going to pick them up.
It's just good to chat with them. It's just
Yeah.
my card buddies, like exotic card buddies, and I'll often work in different banks. I talk with Dominican Securities.
Yeah.
Talk with some of the hedge fund side, some of the wholesaling of the fund size stuff. So
Well, you start to realize that the rules are different. You know, you start to realize that, you know, there's people playing
Matrix.
in different games, like with different rules. So, I mean, and it's not necessarily that it's not available to you. It's just you aren't looking in the right places to be able to go find the information.
100%.
yeah.
You know, that insurance, you know, you had somebody pop in here talking about insurance. You know, I started getting into some serious insurance a few years ago.
Yeah.
And if you look at the actual proportion of insurance in ultra high net worth people,
A lot.
it's massive.
Massive.
Crazy
It's massive.
high.
And do you know why they do that?
Because they can leverage it. It's tax free.
Yeah.
It's a write off in a corporation. All the death benefit is tax free. Your corporation. You know, if you have high cash in your corporation, this is a phenomenal way to be able to leverage against it. There's no prepayment requirement on the actual loan that you're actually putting out, and you're making like 6% guaranteed on the money, and then you go lend it out again. It's honestly, it's a hack in the matrix. It's
Yeah.
one of those things where you're like, is this actually legal?
It's a cheat code, man.
Yeah, no, it's crazy.
That's what it is.
Yeah, it's a lot of real estate investors use this. So if you, let's say, have a small portfolio, you refinance one of the properties, take your 50 grand or whatever your premium is, 100 grand, you throw it in this policy. Well, you just leverage it instantaneously at 98%, and you're already making a 6% or 4% guaranteed rate of return or whatever it is
the
from
dividend.
your portfolio.
Yeah. Annual
Dividend.
yeah.
You go put it back into the real estate. You can go, you know, private lend with it. I know a lot of guys who private lend with it.
Yeah.
You know, phenomenal strategy, especially if you have to have write-offs in your corporation and you are high cash
Yeah.
in a corporate structure.
And the best thing is that it's not on your credit report.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the even better part is you're doing to your money what banks do with your money. It's like now
You are
you're
your
using
own
your money
banks
to make
kind of
more
thing.
money. Yeah. Like, why would you not want to do that?
Yeah.
My insurance guy actually told me about J.C. Penney actually survived 2008 because of
that.
this. Yeah,
What?
because
Tell me
they
more about it.
Because they had all these policies and they didn't have any leverage on them, and at the time the banks weren't giving any money out because the world was ending.
Yeah.
And they were able to draw from these without having to have any sort of repayment plans required, so they didn't have to make payments on it.
Yeah.
So they were able to draw from these massive like policies to be able to cover their debt.
Cash flow, whatever.
That's
that-
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Phenomenal way to have like a little lifeboat. If you're looking for, you know, a way to be able to, you know, manage, you know, risk, great way to do it.
It's funny that we just had that conversation, remember, on our own call. They're like, Cody, why don't you invest those money? And I'm like, Josh, like, I don't think I need to really keep pushing it.
Yeah.
And those are my secondary, and those are my insurance money. If something really hit the fan,
Yeah.
that's where you're going to draw the money.
Yeah.
Where banks don't want to give me money, where something happened, that's my
Yeah.
last resource. Or if the market crashed and I think this is a good opportunity, that's when I'm going to pull it out.
Yeah.
But at the normal time, I'm never going to touch it. I don't need it. I don't need to see that money. Just opportunity money.
100%.
Or it might be my
If you don't
rainy
need
day
it,
money.
yeah, if you don't need it, don't pull it out. And either way, it's
Yeah.
an emergency fund, which I think
Yeah.
something in the back of your mind.
The great thing is you can use it for however you can have multiple policies,
Yeah.
right? You can have an emergency policy, you can have a private lending policy. I know guys who put $100 grand a year into this policy and they lend it out. After 10 years, you have over $1 million you can lend out. And when you lend it out at, let's say 12%, you're making $120,000 plus dollars a year in guaranteed money, guaranteed revenue forever. So, I mean, people are out there trying to buy like 10 duplexes to try to figure this out. It's not overly difficult. It's like, you know, you can figure it out and have high cash flow without having the cost and risk of, you know,
Yeah.
owning real estate as well. And I know, you know, we talk about this all the time. It's just diversification of income.
Yeah.
You know, having the ability to be able to trade stocks, to have an equities portfolio, to do
Yes.
options, to purchase real estate, to have cash flow. Like the average millionaire has, I think, 7 forms of cash flow coming in different avenues. It's It's a powerful thing once you start to understand how it works.
So what you're saying is I'm going to come see you next Wednesday at 2 p.m.
Yes.
We're going to chat about this.
Correct.
That's good. You guys are really close anyway.
No, that's crazy though. Like, I don't think anyone really even thinks past the point of like, I got my money in, it went to all these expenses. That's it. Like, that's the thing, is that a lot of these products are available out there, but no one thinks about that. Because they just think of, okay, I paid my stuff, my mortgage, everything, and that's it. Like, that's all that my money can do for me. Or like, throw it into a GIC, which is barely even beating inflation, or, you know, taking something the bank offers at like a small level. And it's just like, there's so much opportunity if you actually go and talk to the right people.
Well, I think that's exactly it. Is like, your success is 100% dependent on the people around you. If you surround yourself with people who are talking about these topics and who do these things and who learn about investing, and if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably one of those people figuring out like, okay, well, how do I make more money? How do I push past whatever we're doing here? So the people that you surround yourself with will eventually get you into the rooms where you start learning about this stuff.
100%. And what's key is like taking your time, because I think a lot of the times people will like think, oh, I'm talking to this person about insurance, I just want to chuck my money at it. And it's like, no, nothing is a get rich quick scheme. You got to take your time, talk to the right people. I'm just going to bring like a separate topic into this because it's vaguely reminding me of it, but like, it's the same thing when you see like cryptos and all that stuff. It's like, if people take their time and they actually do the research and talk to the right people and take their time, not too many people are going to FOMO it on like something that's just going to lose them money. It's all about like getting to where you want to be, and where you're at right now is all about how much time you take into educating yourself. That's really it. So that's crazy.
Agreed. I'm the world's most impatient human being, though.
Same. I totally, trust me, I am the same way. I have FOMO'd my money at cryptos before. But that's the lesson learned from my mistake.
But then the reason why we're impatient is because we know we can do more.
Yeah.
We can achieve more. It's just the time is not enough, or the team is not big enough, or the team is not capable enough to do that. So I'm impatient the same way. So a lot of time when I'm impatient to my team, I'm telling them, I know you guys think that I'm so mean, but the only time I get impatient is when I know you guys can do better. And I've been saying this so many times. I know you guys can do better, but you guys didn't put enough attention to details. If you guys don't know it right off the back, I will never be mad. I'll like,
of course.
So
find
Cody,
the right way.
if Cody yells at you, he's not mad, he's disappointed.
I'm just disappointed.
High expectations, guys. Live
I'm just
up
like,
to
you
it.
guys
Let's
can
go.
do better. You guys, I've seen it.
I'm the same way with my staff. Like, I have high expectations, and but when you know somebody has innately inside of them to do better than what they're doing, like, it's
just like, come on, you wing this one. I know it.
I got you.
Yeah. And then we just gotta hold it back. A lot of time is just gotta be more patient.
Of course.
And
it's a virtue, apparently.
And this is a funny thing, because a lot of the golf, my golf buddies and my tennis buddy, they're a lot older than me. Like, they're my dad's age. So I actually met my godfather on the golf course, and he told me one thing is like, Cody, slow is better. Because he's flipping houses in Orlando, right? I think over the last 10 years. Oh, you want more drink?
Oh, yeah. I didn't want to bother you. Let's do it.
We're going to give you more drink, and we're going to have a cheers.
So quick pun. So he's your golf father? Okay, I'm going to leave.
That's it.
18 years. 18 years scotch.
Cheers to
always hits.
golf father.
Yeah.
Yes,
Cheers.
Yeah.
On the 7th day, God made 18-year-old scotch.
Yeah, like, because, like, it's just a side note. Just my dad's a doctor, but he doesn't know anything about money. He's the best anesthesiologist I know, but our life was
You know a lot of them?
Anesthesiologist?
Yeah.
We have a few clients.
Oh, gosh.
High net worth, like.
I'm just joking.
You're too interested in that. What's going on, bro? Blink twice if
he's
you're
like,
okay.
the best anesthesiologist I know. I'm like, okay, well, you know, like 17 of them? Like, I mean, I don't even know one.
Oh, you don't even know one?
No?
You don't usually know them unless you're giving birth or you're having plastic surgery.
Well, we're working on it.
You will be a good mother.
Yeah. 2023, I do what I want.
Anyway, I mentioned that because my godfather it's kind of like my rich dad, poor dad. My real dad is my poor dad, and my godfather is my rich dad. And my godfather started getting into real estate about 10 years ago. He started flipping houses in Orlando. Mm-hmm. Every month he flip about 1 to 2. He buys it right off the auction. So there's no auction in Canada. There's only power of sale. Like he showed me how he did that. We went to the courthouse.
Yeah.
And then you go in there, and we sat with like 10 other people. They're all like wearing hats, wearing shades. It's like playing poker game. I'm like, what the hell? And he's there like, I'm not doing anything. Like someone on my team is doing it. And they start yelling out like numbering, case file, this number going up at 100,000. And his guy is like, okay, that's not my thing. They just kind of lay back. If it's their thing, like, yeah, 200. I'm like, how do you guys know that one's the one to buy? I'm like, and he's like, well, we kind of do our research and we do so many flips that we know, we calculate each toilet. This one toilet is $150. One window is $200. So he's down to that kind of flipping style. But I'm like, but that's still scary. How do you know what's in that house? He's like, yeah, they drive around, try to, but you still can't see inside. But he's like, Cody, if you buy low enough, everything else could be solved. He said, we have seen everything. But I'm like, but for the past year, remember the interest rate gone up, right? I'm like, so are you guys still flipping? He's like, yeah, Cody, we only use cash. I'm like, there's some wisdom there.
Yep.
There's some wisdom there. They only use cash.
No carrying cost on the debt.
No carrying cost.
The implied return is more than the carrying cost on the debt.
Yeah.
And
a lot of people have switched to that. Well, obviously, if you can now in the States, if you're buying $200,000 duplexes, it's easier to drop cash on it. But that strategy is wise.
Yeah.
Yeah. He only used cash, and he's like, okay, I'm not sure if I should be sharing this, but he's like, Cody, I have $4 million sitting in my bank right now. So I'm 62 years old. I'm like, where am I pushing? I have like 20 more properties.
Yeah.
So this slow is good. And then and you see a lot of flippers getting hurt in the markets because they push too fast, scale too fast, trying to push for the profit at the hype.
Yeah.
I use a lot of borrowing money and all that, and they got into trouble.
People forgot about market exposure and the downside of it all.
100%.
When you're looking at borrowing capital and you're making lots of money, but when the merry-go-round stops and the music halts, a lot of people got caught. And the only people that I know who went bankrupt over the last 12 months were people who had multiple flips on the go with too much exposure to the market.
Yeah.
We just had a guest come on, Michael Lee, and he shares his story of he had 18 flips on the go.
Yeah.
And then his partner ran away, and then the banks were calling on him, and he was like, holy cow, Cody. What saved me was my active income. So he doubled down on wholesaling, he has like, I think 1 million per year just in interest, and he covered that by his active income.
It's crazy.
It's crazy what people do though to be able to get themselves out of a situation. Like back up against the wall, you got two choices: you fight or you let it happen.
Yeah, and it is even to the point he was thinking about declaring bankruptcy. So, like, I think by the time this episode goes out, that episode already went out. So. If you haven't listened to that, listen to that. But
no, that was crazy. I think for like when I look at real estate, like I don't know, maybe I'm just weird. I like predictability. Like pardon?
Possibly.
Who doesn't know?
But
consistency is the word everyone looks for.
Yeah, like I look for predictability. Like even if I were to get a property right now, let's say I'm like loaded and I'm just gonna drop some money on a duplex, triplex, 10plex, whatever it may be. Even if the interest rates are really, really high, I would still lock it in just to get that predictability so I know what my expenses are. Because like, I think the problem lies for like the majority of people is when they go into these variable rate mortgages and then all of a sudden the rates go up and they're like, oh my God, we don't have short-term cash to cover this. Whereas like, for me, I'm the type of person who's like really, really anal about this because, Abdul's a CPA, my husband. So he makes me very conservative when it comes to like underwriting. So like, I would just want it to be predictable so I can account for that. And then when the mortgage ends, by that time, when it's time to renew it, I've saved up some money in anticipation for the rates to go up. But maybe I'm just trying to play safe in a game that's like the Wild West.
Well, I think short-term sight definitely makes sense. But if you're a macro person, you take a look at the last decade, it always made sense to go variable. You'd save money over the entire term. So if you're going to follow that strategy of looking at the actual numbers, it does make sense to stay variable. Especially if we're anticipating, 2 full percent or 200 basis points decrease over the next 2 years.
Yeah.
If we're at the height of a real estate cycle or the hike cycle, like, does it make sense? And most people are taking 2-year fixed terms. Mm-hmm. It's just like a lot of people again are scared. They got burned. Taking 5-year terms is a death sentence. Don't do that.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, take 2-year term. 1-year term, I don't think you'll catch any sort of significant decrease in rates. But a 2-year term, you'll probably be in a good spot to be 100%. Able to, catch a much lower rate on renewal.
Yeah, especially if it's for like commercial real estate. Like I would not do anything more than a 2-year term, because then at that point you're going to lose on the long term potentially.
I guess it depends. Like, it
If
depends on
it's
the
a flip,
strategy.
that's the thing. Like,
different.
Yeah, commercial's a whole nother beast.
I just assume that you guys know what strategy I have, despite me never explaining it.
Yeah, of course.
We're trying to read your mind, but man, we're really trying here.
What do you mean, guys? You can't read my mind? I'm thinking loud.
So there's still a lot of ways to make money, though. I don't want this to be like a doom and gloom podcast.
No, for sure.
There are a lot of people I know who are making a ton of money in this market.
100%.
How are they making it?
Multifamily real estate.
Yeah.
And how? What are they doing in multifamily that other people are not doing?
They're doing the same thing everyone else is doing. I don't know anybody who's losing money in effectively executing a multifamily real estate right now. So,
So what are the key points? Acquiring low? Acquiring right?
Acquiring correctly, yes. Acquiring correctly in a decent market. So market transcends all markets, all up and down like variable markets. And
what do you mean like when you say market transcend, as in the location,
yeah,
where is it primary, secondary, tertiary?
Location transcends all markets. Mm-hmm. So if you have a recession, a good location is going to keep your asset, at a decent marketable price if you did need to sell. Mm-hmm. Buying. I'm not picking on Sudbury. I'm not picking on North Bay for all the people who have have thousands of units up there. It's just it definitely is. People who have an exit strategy in a primary market, it's viable if you need to get out. Yeah. But most people are acquiring based off of having some sort of vacancy, in primary markets. And the beautiful thing about commercial financing is it's definitive. You understand the exit strategy and the ability to be able to get out of the debt you're currently getting into. 100%. So if you're a numbers person and you have vacancy in a property, you can determine what your ARV value is going to be.
Yeah.
You're not capped by your personal income as to how to refinance and pull capital out. It's infinitely scalable. Mm-hmm. Banks don't want to lend on it. It's the most sound investment that God ever made. It's compounding cash flowing real estate.
Yeah.
And if you're in a primary market, essentially you can't lose if you do it properly.
100%.
It's just understanding that you do need capital to do it. It costs a lot of money to do it correctly. And you have to understand the exit strategy or the debt to hold it long term. Mm-hmm. If you're okay with holding it long term, having a decent property management company, spending the actual money on doing the work to the units and getting a good tenant profile in there, you're going to make money.
Yeah. It's all about planning properly. Yeah. And if you want to plan properly, we got Josh at Findlay Mortgage Team.
Plug.
Can you share like a story of, I know we're coming to the time here, but share a story of the most recent successful multifamily buy, or how has go through?
I have a deal. It's not done yet, but I'll have a deal. I have a deal I want to tell you guys. So I have a client, I'm not going to say his name. He bought a 32-unit building in London, Ontario 6 months ago.
I think I might know who that person is.
Yeah, for the ones who know, they know. $3.2 million, 32 units. The risk was obviously always implied. When you purchase an asset like that and there's no vacancy, it is all on you to make it happen. Well, this person is a go-getter. They got it done. They focused on strategies around, incentivizing tenants. So, if they can help people find a better place to live or give them money for a down payment.
Yeah.
Everyone's always demonizing paying people to leave, but you're not. If you can help them get a down payment to go buy a place for themselves, you're 100%. Actually helping them. There's multiple ways to be able to get vacancy in your building. Yeah. So it does that, and he's currently almost done the renos. We're moving it into CMHC. And we were able to be really creative on the purchase. The bank at the time was able to use a VTB, very little money down on this purchase. What was probably the craziest deal I've ever done. But I believe the value of this thing is going to come in around 7.
So 3.2 to 7 mil.
Yeah.
That's
in
crazy.
less than 12 months.
What's the cost for reno? The cost for turnover?
$1 million.
Only?
Yeah.
That's
32
crazy.
Units.
Yeah.
Wow. In London.
And that includes major upgrades to energy efficiency requirements. So boiler systems, heat distribution systems, things like that. It is probably the most home run deal that I've ever seen.
That's crazy. And right now there's a huge shortage of housing in London.
There's a huge shortage of housing everywhere.
There is, but I'm just going to say this from the lens of London because, that's all that matters in my world.
Crazy.
But yeah, no, I've been seeing the rents skyrocket. I think right now a single room apartment is $1,700 when I remember not even 5 years ago it was at $900. 900 to 1,000. Like, it was crazy. Like, the prices have skyrocketed. In London, he got 32 units. Like, that's incredible.
Understanding market conditions and what's happening with the supply and demand issues and what that's going to do long term for your rents is a great indicator of why somebody would go and purchase multifamily underperforming real estate. And you would do it, but like, again, there's a ton of implied risk. You have to get vacancy. You got to spend like $40,000 per unit. You know, you're usually buying 8-10 units. It's probably going to cost you like $1 million to do a project, but the return on these investments over such a short period of time is astronomical.
And I like that they went the route of doing like cash for keys, because like I also believe like it's such a good strategy to get people to like get out of the unit, but also help them get into their own home. Like I told like my business partners, like when we get into like commercial real estate, like I definitely want to adopt that strategy, because it's like the whole point personally we're in it is to help people get housing. And it's like, if I can get you out for $30,000, it's like, yeah, I might feel the pinch there, but it's like I'm helping you get into your next home. So
and that's the thing. Like my girlfriend and I, we also discussed, like, I'll never be somebody to kick somebody out of their home. Never. Like I'm going to die one day and God's going to ask me how I made my money.
100%.
I'm not going to be the guy standing there saying I kicked Gertrude out of her home. Okay.
Yeah.
So like, you know, being able to help people either live in better conditions, to be able to help them buy another place, to be able to
100%.
move forward in life. Like you have the ability as an investor to help them do that, as well as creating really good real estate and investments long term.
And it's rewarding in its own way, other than just like finances. Like,
and it's unfortunate because a few people in the media have unfortunately ruined it, and it
100%
becomes a challenge.
Cheers to good intention.
Cheers.
Cheers to good intention.
Oh my God, I can't do scotch, guys.
I know we have, I hope we have more time here, but Josh, I know there's some events coming up. Probably going to drop this podcast, I don't know, in a few weeks and all that. So maybe you want to put in a plug for the events coming up, or maybe for more evergreen events you want to share?
Yeah. So we do a monthly event in Kitchener-Waterloo every single month. It's just a monthly meetup event. It's for real estate investors to connect with other real estate investors. It's pretty casual. Come and have drinks, come and hang out. We post it. If you follow our page, the Findlay Mortgage Team, we post those events all the time, every month. We do have a more serious event. It is coming up. I believe it's in October.
Yeah, that should be in time.
Yeah, and that event outlines how to purchase fundamentally multifamily in this environment. So there's a lot of things that aren't known to the average investor. So how to underwrite CMHC. We're going to outline the benchmarks that they look for.
What day is that? Maybe I should go.
100% you should go.
What day is it?
I believe it's the 22nd. I don't want to say it on
October?
Camera. Yeah, October.
No, we're holding you to it. So if it's not on the 22nd, you have to move it.
Okay.
I'm leaving the country. I'll be away for a month starting on the 16th.
See, I was going to leave the country then, but just for you, Josh, I'm going to show up.
Appreciate it. It might be on the 14th. I can figure that out still.
14th will work.
Okay, I'll let you know. But what we're doing is we're giving away information that no one's ever given out before. So a lot of lenders, a lot of banks, they hide how they go about
underwriting processes.
Yep. So I'm going to go through and give everybody the information they need to be able to actually underwrite their deals.
And just knowing where they're heading.
Yeah.
Knowing their end game, right?
Well, I mean, that's the beautiful thing about what we do. We realize that the banks are not equipped to be able to help investors do this. The mortgage investment corporations only deal with fundamentally acquiring or stabilizing buildings, so they aren't going to give you the knowledge to do it. So how are you ever going to understand how to do it?
100%.
So it's $300 per ticket. It's a one-day event. I'll feed you. I'll give you lots of drinks, and there'll be a lot of real estate investors there understanding how to do this. And I think $300 is completely worth understanding. So there's also some industry experts there. Joe Mysak from Mysak Realty's there. Nice. He's one of the best realtors that I know for multifamily. Myron, he's going to outline information on appraisals. Yeah. He's going to tell you what's happening in cap rates in multifamilies in certain areas. It's going to be like a really packed event. It's going to be good. And we're excited to do it. It's our first in-person, serious event.
That's awesome.
It's going to be in Toronto, yeah.
And so for $300, you can learn
in
how to...
Toronto, too?
In TO.
Oh, it's a no-brainer.
You have to.
I thought I have to drive to London, man.
No, we're going to Toronto.
Awesome, yeah. So
Damn it, I got to drive from London.
So guys, follow Findlay Mortgage if you want to know more on that. Okay, and thanks for coming.
Yeah, appreciate it. I love having conversations like this. Appreciate you guys allowing me to come here and chat.
The bomb.